Hello, I'm Brandon, the sales manager for Big Data and AI Toronto 2020. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our Big Data and AI follow-up series. This is the first of many upcoming follow-ups that we're going to be doing. So today we do have two fantastic speakers. Up first is OVH. We have Christophe Renaud. He is the team lead machine learning services. And we also have Jonathan Drucker, who is the product marketing manager for OVHcloud. We will have a 5-minute Q&A at the end of their presentation, so please don't be shy. Any questions that you guys have, please type it into the Q&A portion, and Christophe and Jonathan be more than happy to answer them. So I'm going to leave them to their presentation. Christophe, Jonathan.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for introducing us. And just want to let everyone know that my colleague Christophe is in France. He stayed up very late for this. So let's pay attention. He's got a lot of good information. And let's get to this quickly. I'm going to be showing you our deck that we have. This will not be death by PowerPoint, I promise you. We're going to just take a little bit of time to introduce the AI training, big data and AI training, and some of the AI and machine learning services that we have at OVHcloud. Before I get into that, there are a number of people who are not that familiar with us, and this is one of the things I wanted to point out. Before we get into the demo, I'd just like to explain to you what and who OVHcloud is for just a brief moment, as well as what the solution is, and then we'll jump right into the demo. So for those who are not familiar, and even for those who are, OVHcloud is a European competitor to AWS and Google Cloud and Azure. We are quite large. We're all over the globe. We have 31 of our own data centers. We have many points of presence. We have 48, and that's going to grow significantly. We've been around for 20 years now. We build our own servers. We have built over 400,000, and we also sell them. So for people who want on-premises versus cloud services. And we have over 1 million customers worldwide in 140 countries. And the reason why I'm presenting this is when people say, who are you guys? We're actually a very established player, and we're pushing further into the North American market. So you may not have heard of us, but we work very closely with Intel as well. They provide us with some of their finest chips, and we build some of the finest hardware servers so that you can do all of the computation and storage and big data and AI that you want, either in the cloud or on your own. But we are very much a cloud hosting business. So we do provide a lot of services in the cloud, in our public cloud, in a private cloud, and hosted. We have bare metal and bare metal on-premise. So what is our AI solution, and why did we build it? Our AI solution consists of 4 parts. We have tried to simplify the whole journey, AI, of having an idea and getting into production. And we broke it down into the 4 main elements that kind of take a place when a project wants to start. It could be a large company who wants to do AI on sentiment analysis, or they want to look at medical data, they want to do imaging. And we see these parts broken down as the storage part, where you actually have to have your data, and your data could be data files, it could be images, it could be cold storage, hot storage, it could be block storage. But we have the storage capacity, the storage solutions, so that you can get your data all in the right place to begin this, because storage is a key element. The next part that we broke it down into is what we call explore and process, or pre-process, and we have a wonderful Apache Spark tools that we can do, so you can submit your data cleaning and your data prep by job so that you're ready to go and train your model. The third part is our training aspect, which Christophe's going to get into, and how we handle that, the way we approach it, and why we have simplified this journey and made it much faster to get to market. And the last one is, once you start to get your data going in your models, you have to deploy it and serve it so that you can actually get some insight out of it. And that's the other part that we have, is an ML serving engine. So these are the 4 components that we have when we break it down. And we think this is going to help anyone who wants to do an AI project, for whatever the case is, to accelerate that, to get it to market faster, because it's all about gaining insights quickly. So when you look at it, just know that if you're ever thinking about us and OVHcloud and what is it that we offer, we have taken the approach that AI is software as a service. We provide you with the AI tools and we provide you with the compute and storage aspect in our public cloud. We've taken a very industrial approach to this. Like we produce our own servers, we have the capacity globally so that you can produce all of this. And you, as a data scientist, for example, you don't have to spend time configuring. You just have to submit your jobs and then get your data going. We don't ask you to size the cluster or anything like that. We've taken all of that away so that you can actually focus on the job you're being paid for. And the last one is we simplify your daily life with PaaS offerings. And what we do is we've taken all of the heavy work and we've reduced it down into short bursts. So it's less wasted time. You don't need the system administration skills. You're just coding. You're just using your notebooks. Again, you don't really care about so much about size and complexity. We provide scalability. You don't have to worry about that. And what we have done that's actually different from a lot of our competitors is you pay by the job and you pay as you go. So you know what you're going to have. So when you do this kind of thing, you can actually see your pricing, and Christophe's going to show you that, so that if you're ever asked as a data scientist, well, what's this project going to cost us? And if you have to work with DevOps and you have to work with someone who's in a startup and is concerned about the money, you can actually have a very clear idea of what an AI project is going to cost you. And you might want to say, hey, you know what, because it's only paid by the job, let's run more projects. Let's do more experiments. So you have more flexibility and you have a clearer view of your budget without surprises at the end of the month. Said, oh, you did this, ingress and egress, and we've taken this. We make it very, very simple to see what it's going to cost you to run these jobs. And that's been our approach to trying to solve and make the life of a data scientist and of our customers better who want to take advantage of their data. But I'm talking about the business stuff. I want to really get into, with Christophe, what does it look like to submit a job like this? What does it take to do, and how have we really simplified it through a really simple interface? This is the nuts and bolts of what people are going to do on the ground day to day. And this is where I'd like to hand off to Christophe to show us what is it that we're going to be doing and how does someone use this solution in a practical way.
So yes, thanks, Jonathan. So let me share my screen. So here you are on the OVHcloud control panel on the public cloud tab. And every AI-related products are available on this section of public cloud. And to start off, you just need to create a user with either the administrator roles or AI training operator. And once it's done, you can just head on to the AI training tab and you land on your dashboard summarizing what is going on currently on your project. So right now I have 2 jobs that are running. And you get a quick information about how to install the OVH AI client that we will be using for this demonstration. So now that I have my user and my client, let's head over to the code itself. So here you have the code that I want to run over GPUs and using AI training to do so. So it's quite usual. It's loosely inspired from the glue benchmark script that we can find on the Hugging Face GitHub repository. So there is the classical loading your dataset, loading your model and configuration, the training loop. And what will be interesting here is this particular method. In this one, there will be the specifics about how to export your model to deploy it on OVHcloud ML serving. So to start, we are using an Hugging Face transformers pipeline to be exported. So we started with the current task at hand, which is a sentiment analysis based on the Stanford sentiment tree bank. And we init it with our model and tokenizers that we just trained and save it. So that's quite usual. The only addition you need to make to use ML serving is to add a small file, a manifest.json file that will outline to ML serving how you serialize your model and how it should be deployed. So it's as simple as providing what type of model you are using. So right now, an Hugging Face pipeline, and the classes you use to export your model for the pipeline tokenizer and so on. And that's about it for the code. Now the next step is just to Dockerize it, to put it in a Docker image. The script is the Docker file is quite simple as well. We just start off from a PyTorch-based image, install our own requirements, put on our source code and the commands that should be run within the AI training cluster, which is simply the classifier and some parameters like the number of epochs. And when we're good to go on the code side, we have access to AI training, so let's just get on with it. First step is to log in. To log in, you will just use user credentials that you created earlier on the public cloud interface. So I'm already logged in. And once you're logged in, you need to have access to a Docker registry to which you will push your image that will be next used by AI training to run your job. So to do so, we provide you with a shared registry that you can use at your leisure. To get it, just OVH AI registry list, and then Docker login to this specific registry. And well, that's it. I was already logged in. You just need to reuse the same credentials as before. And now let's just build our image. So to build the image, we just reuse the registry name that was provided to us and added on the name of the specific image on tag. I already did, so it was quite fast. Then we just push it. Once again, it was already done. And finally, we just need to submit our job. So this command is a bit more complicated, but it's quite simple as well. So for starters, you just add OVH AI job run, specify the image we just pushed, and then it's just a matter of mounting the containers from the object storage. Like Jonathan said, that's the first step of your data pipeline, and AI training is fully integrated with the object storage. So you mount on one side your container on the, in this case, Gravelin region, and specify the path on the containers that you will run. And you can look here, it's like just the path I specified here for my data path, output path, logged here on model path. So in this container, I already preloaded my dataset earlier. And this one, the models one, is an important container because I will save my pipeline on the manifest.json in it, and then reuse it to deploy it on ML serving. Finally, you can specify a port that you wish to have exposed to your service. In this run, we will run TensorBoard as well, so we will be able to check out the progress of our training through this dashboard. You can name it, and finally, just simply specify how many GPUs you need for this training. Currently, you can go up to 4. So that's it. The job is successfully submitted. So it's currently initializing, pulling the image from the registry and spawning it in our cluster. So to not wait too long, we'll just check out ones that I already started earlier. So you can follow its logs, or you can simply, like I said earlier, go to the TensorBoard with the URL that is provided. To log in, you just use the same user's credentials. So here is the TensorBoard that I was supposed to show you earlier. So you can see and follow the progress of your model. So right now, this one is not very progressing the way we want him to, but anyway. So now let's assume our job is finished training, and we will get on to deploying our newly trained model. So still on the public cloud control panel, just switch on to the ML serving product. I already created earlier a namespace in which I will deploy my models. And as you can see here, it's linked to my object storage container models, in which I exported my model in my training script. So let's move on to it. And just click deploy model. Here you'll have a choice between a custom model, like one I just trained, or a set of predefined models that you can use at your leisure. There is a small list for now, but we will try and continue to update it. So you can have French sentiment analysis, question answering, and so on. So let's get back to the custom models that we wanted to deploy at the beginning. There is a number of frameworks available to you. So one we used was Hugging Face, so let's get on with it. And from my models container, I will select the model I want to deploy. So we train the sentiment analysis for the English dataset. Next, I just need to name it. Next step is to select and tweak the auto-scaling boundaries for my models to what number of instances I wish it to scale in case of heavy traffic and a lot of requests. I let the default ones. And finally, the type of instances I want to deploy my model onto. I'll choose a medium one for now. And well, that's it. From now on, the ML serving backend will load your model weights, Dockerize them with our serving engine, and deploy it for you. So to not wait this deploying process, I already deployed one earlier. And here is the URL directly available to you. It is protected, it is access protected as well, and it's protected through the use of tokens that you can simply generate from your control plane. Let's regenerate this one, which is for star resources, so it's available for any resource. And yes, that's it. You have your Swagger available to you. And your model is ready, deployed in production, and you can use it in your business application. And well, that's it for the for the deployment and training of sentiment analysis model. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I will gladly answer to them in the Q&A part.
Yeah, so thank you, Christophe, Jonathan as well. Now we can start answering some of the questions from attendees. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We do have one question. Do I need to know how to use Docker to work with your solution?
So no, it's not actually necessary to fully use it, to fully take advantage of the solution. Yeah, you kind of need it. But there is also a set of predefined images, similarly to the models for the serving, that are available for you to use. And in particular, they will usually ship a Jupyter Notebook along with usual deep learning libraries such as TensorFlow or AmixNet. And you can just start them from the control panel, and you will be accessing your notebook through the URL like we presented previously for the tensor board, but this time it will be a notebook. So to start up and make it available to your data scientists, there is no real need to know how to use Docker.
Okay, great. Did we have any other questions from the audience?
You can still hear me?
I think that
Yeah, we can now.
We can. Okay. I had a few problems. I don't know what's going on, but I wanted to thank Christophe. And Christophe, just in terms of your experience from before this, how much time would you have spent before this configuring and doing all the sizing? How much time would it take someone generally? It's not a simple process, is it?
Starting really from scratch and like plugging everything right and without the common knowledge of how to administer, and it would take hours, even days sometimes, to make it really stick, especially because like GPU's drivers are not always compatible with deep learning libraries. I know in the past I had some trouble making my TensorFlow script recognize my GPU as GPU. So it can be quite a pain, quite long, and usually I would lose all my work about 2 weeks after I finish training and start all over again.
So you're saving many hours, if not days, of effort.
I save many hours and many headaches.
Okay. That's also worth something. I think we have another question.
Yes, we do. So we have another question is, what are some popular business applications for sentiment analysis?
I can give an answer to that. Sure. Yeah. I mean, for sentiment analysis, particularly in large marketing. So what a number of companies do with AI is based on a type of sentiment that's put through, let's say they're collecting unstructured data. They're collecting comments from Facebook or on their own web pages or on blogs, is trying to categorize and see where there's popular or potentially negative information, but also to see, when is the person or are people having trouble with certain things? What are the processes like as someone goes through a website, particularly in e-commerce more than anything right now, is looking at what is a user sentiment and what is the traffic like. So is the sentiment very strong towards a particular product or a brand or a service? And then comparing that with, you could have very strong sentiment, but you might not have a lot of conversion. So you might have a lot of chatter around a particular service or product, and it might be good, but why isn't that, turning into potential sales? Or conversely, with sentiment analysis, it could be on the popularity of a particular movie. So Netflix is very famous for doing this, is seeing where there is strong sentiment towards particular movies or particular shows, and then taking that and correlating to that, what do they want to present next to you? So it goes even one step further based on that type of sentiment saying, I gave this movie 5 stars out of 5, and you might have said, click, yes, I recommend it, or add it to your stack. The sentiment analysis aspect in AI says, okay, the next movies we should be presenting are X and Y and Z. And for companies like Netflix, they want to put up things that are going to be watched as much as possible so that they can actually make their contracts and they can say we have so many views on these things. So there's a real business application in the sense of when people start to see, hey, I've been presented with this particular type of show. From Netflix's point of view, it's not only that you keep your membership, but that you might recommend these things to other people. And you might also say, from a legal point of view, for Netflix, it's also, we've shown this movie and we've had it downloaded or streamed X number of times, which would be good for fulfilling a contract. So sentiment analysis actually has a lot of different applications on showing preferences, as well as trying to match sentiment with actual sales, with actual conversions on e-commerce. I hope that helps.
That was a great answer, Jonathan. I actually wanted to thank both you and Christoph again for participating in the post-event webinar series. We're now going to move on to our next speaker, which is Dan Demers, who is the co-founder and CEO of Cinchy. So again, Christoph, Jonathan, thank you. Dan.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Pleasure. Bye.
Thank you.
And Dan.
Yeah, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right, cool. So hey everyone, I'm Dan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cinchy. And today I'm going to be talking about the role that a data fabric plays in really reimagining your target state architecture. So you've all heard the expression, I'm sure, that software is eating the world, and it is very true. Really what's happening is it's the codification of what used to be manual processes, and that's been going on for many decades. But what's already started to happen is the datafication of that code. So code better watch out, because the data is coming for it. And in the end, all you need to run the enterprise of the future is data. And that's a pretty big paradigm shift. Now, data is not the new oil. Intelligence is. This is what's going to separate the winners and losers in the corporate world. This is going to determine which companies become the superpowers of this decade. And intelligence is the ability to apply knowledge, just like how as a human with human intelligence, if you are a child and you touch a stove and it's hot and it burns you, you're not going to touch it again. You learn right away. You operationalize that intelligence. And that capability just doesn't exist in the world of enterprise software, and that's changing. So there's another phenomenon that's really happening, which is there's a tsunami of change. COVID's just an accelerator, but all these things were happening anyways. Everyone needs to quickly move everything to the cloud, and that does require a combination of build and rebuild. You need to rebuild for privacy by design. There's new privacy regulations in every jurisdiction in the world, and that's accelerating, and we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg there. And there's new technologies that are creating demands from customers that you deploy new capabilities that take advantage of these new technologies. So whether it's 5G or IoT or AI or ML, there's new expectations, and you need to keep pace. So the key here is build, build, build. You need to build a lot of applications. And the problem with that, with the app-centric approach that's been in place for, more than 40 years, is it results in the introduction of a new data silo every time you buy and build an application, because while there's an app for everything, there's a data silo for every app. So you cannot stop the proliferation of new capabilities, i.e. applications, and therefore without changing the underlying way that we architect systems, that means you can't stop the proliferation of data silos, which is that's ever growth and complexity. That's not sustainable. So there's a growing recognition. If you follow the analyst community, the Gartners and Forresters of the world, they talk about a couple of core concepts. The first is around continuous intelligence. It's kind of like that touching the stove story that I told earlier, which is the ability to have continuous intelligence in your operational systems, not after the fact intelligence, where you're taking copies, dumping it into a lake, curating it, then running insights, and then figuring out what to do with those insights. That's too slow. And the survival really of businesses in the coming years is going to depend on their evolution away from app centricity towards data-centric architectures as really the new way forward. And this is the only way to enable rapid response to constant change. And we definitely share this view. And the way we see it is the world has already started shifting, and we're just at the beginning. And the shift is away from app centricity towards data centricity. So in an app-centric architecture, there's an app for everything and a data silo for every app. And you're connecting the apps together as needed to share data. And you're doing that over APIs, over ETLs. And it's point-to-point, even if you use a common infrastructure, even if you're using microservices, it doesn't really matter. It's still point-to-point because there's no network in the middle. There's no collaboration. So 500 apps is 500 silos. That's a whole lot of integration. Whereas in a data-centric architecture, the data is separate from the apps, just like how central power grids generate power and supply it to individual buildings. It's that separation of concerns that means 500 apps is 0 data silos. So it's that network-based architecture that is really the next big shift, and it's, I'd argue, even bigger than the shift from mainframe to distributed, the shift from app centricity towards data centricity. Really, the quickest way to sum it up is app centricity is what causes data silos. Data silos is what causes this immense complexity, and complexity ultimately limits our organization's ability to become truly intelligent. So you've probably heard of the concept of a data fabric, a lot of hype about that, especially over the past 6 months. It's shot to the peak of the hype cycle, but what the heck is it? You ask 10 people, you're going to get 15 definitions of what it is. So our definition of it is really just picture a fabric, picture a sweater where you have threads that are interwoven, horizontal, vertical, and really what you're doing is you're using data fabric as a platform to weave together that connected view. So maybe you're grabbing some data from Salesforce, and you're grabbing some data from Dynamics, and maybe it's from Workday, and maybe from Outlook, and hey, as this data is coming together, you find that you need to generate new data. So why not create that new data directly in the fabric itself? So that's what the fabric is it allows you to weave this view together and then to separately then connect those fabrics to create a network of fabrics. So what you're seeing on the left is our data fabric from 2 years ago, but it's actually a network of fabrics because that node is a fabric and that node is a fabric. So each node is an interwoven view, but they in turn are now interwoven to create, really conceptually think of an internet of data. And that's what it looked like a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to show it to you live in a second. And what's happening is the fabric is really evolving around your business as you're deploying technology changes by applying data centricity to your target state architecture. So it's as if the fabric is just evolving around your business in real time. So you should not have a data fabric project. You should not need an expensive investment in data fabric technology. It should have instant ROI and payback by applying it to the projects that you're already planning. So let me pop out of the deck and I'll show you quickly. What you're seeing is our fabric. That was from 2 weeks ago, but this is from right here, right now. This is the real-time view of that. And you're seeing all of our company's information and Our customers, for example, using the same platform, their fabric is going to look very different, and it will not only look different from organization to organization, but even person to person, because it's running in a context, which is which time are you in? Right now I'm in the present, and which user am I? Well, right now I'm logged in as Dan. So what I can see, what I can change, what I can approve is constrained by my access that's been granted by whoever ultimately owns the data. But these nodes of data are more than just, this is not a visualization, this actually is the information, and this information is blended. So for example, if I want to look for people, I'll look in our contacts domain. So I see this one node here, I can see how it's connected, but I can actually go into the data. It's kind of like going from Google Maps on the satellite view down to the street view, and now I'm seeing the actual rows and columns of data, that interwoven view. So this record came from Freshdesk, this record came from Freshdesk, this was created in the Fabric natively, this record came from Salesforce, and just because the rows came from a system doesn't mean all the columns came from a system. So this is just an example of a single data set that's interwoven, but if I pop back out and go back to the Fabric, that's just one node on the Fabric. I'm going to show you one other node quickly. I'm going to go to customers. So I can find customers on the Fabric, and I can see how it's organized and connected into things like currency codes and accounts and customer success leads and other nodes. But let me actually go into customer. And I'm going to show you an example of an experience that we built over the past 3 days that provides a 360 view. Now on a Fabric, it's already 360 everything. So the ability to overlay experiences now just becomes, it's almost like you're painting on a canvas, but the paint is supplied because the paint is data. And that data is now unconstrained. You have an unlimited supply of every color. But let me open up, so I'm going to just open up a fake customer that I've stood up just for demo purposes. And I'm going to open up a 360 view of this one customer. Now we have this very same view for our actual customers that gives us this visibility, and the reason we were able to assemble this in literally 3 days of duration, about a day of effort, is because the data was on the Fabric, and our data and the way that we architect our information is data-centric, and it's data-centric that enables this level of agility. But what I'm now looking at is just a view of a customer. So again, this is a fake customer, so all the information is manufactured, but it's coming in from various sources. So it could be coming in from legacy systems, maybe some from Salesforce, maybe from a mainframe, maybe from some alternative data sources. But you can see it's giving me information about the company, what is their logo, what is their customer number, legal name. I'm just going to quickly give you a tour of the kind of information that we were able to assemble. I can get intelligence on the company, like what is the primary domain, how many employees, what's their assets under management, what's their revenue, what's their overall IT budget, what's their sector code. I can look at our coverage team that we have assigned, so I can see from the customer as well as within the team, who do we have on point for customer success, who's the assigned salesperson. So you can see there's me. My personality is a questioner, so we're doing personality profiling, so we can kind of compare personalities of the different coverage members. I can look at any shared documents, because documents can ultimately be expressed as data, and you can enable the collaboration on documents as well as you can for structured data. So that's for an example of unstructured data. I can see all the sales opportunities. So here we can see we have an opportunity to implement Household 360 for this hypothetical wealth management firm. I can see what the potential ARR is. I can see the leads that we have open. I can see any orders that they've placed. I can see any sales agreements that we have. I can see any engagement signals. For example, they attended a learning series, which is our weekly webinar, and they did that on December the 3rd. I can look at health checks where we do quarterly reviews with customers, and I can see we got an NPS of 10. I can look at all the projects that are in flight. I can look at all the tickets that they've opened. I can look at where we are with onboarding. I can look at the billing information. The general idea is I can see everything about the customer in a single view, not just see, but even edit and change and add and extend. I can use this to basically manage the customer. Now here is customer, but I could do employee, I could do bill, I could do invoice, I could do product backlog item. It's 360 anything. That's what a Fabric ultimately enables. Like here I can even see the conversations that we've had, and I can listen to the conversation or view the transcript. So this is the kind of capability that goes from essentially near impossible, millions of dollars, 6 to 18 months, to being something that could be done in a fraction of the time. So that's really where Data Fabric kicks in. And what's amazing about data-centric architecture is it actually unlocks capabilities that are prerequisite capabilities that enable human intelligence. So we talk a lot about artificial intelligence. Well, what about real intelligence? So real intelligence depends on really two phenomena that just don't exist in traditional app-centric architectures. The first is the idea of plasticity, where your brain reorganizes itself as you learn, and it does that in a combination of real time and through dreaming and other factors. But it's again, it's operational. It's just part of the machinery. It's from the date of your birth till the end of your life. Your brain is rewiring itself. The data model is data. It's a meta architecture, and the other is the fact that we have platforms that we can use to collaborate and share information while retaining autonomy. So we can communicate via the English language or other languages. We can even pass knowledge across generations through what we call culture. These are just examples of collaboration, and we're so used to collaboration on documents and in virtual meetings, especially nowadays, but collaborating on information management and data is pretty radical. But once you experience it, you can't unexperience it. It changes your whole frame of reference, and it becomes quite clear that that is inevitably the future. And that plasticity is really what is unlocking the root cause that historically has caused data silos. So the reason data silos exist is because the absence of plasticity. And if you think about it, why would you not want to have a shared data platform across all of your applications? We've been conditioned to thinking that, well, you do not want that. You cannot have that, but that was prior to plasticity coming into existence. That changed that. You can now enable federated development. You can have teams build autonomously without stepping on each other's toes. The scalability is solved through the establishment of a network-based architecture. So that plasticity is what enables individual projects to pay it forward by building off of a shared data platform. So by not building in silos, you're basically getting continuously accelerating and compounding, not just accelerated delivery, but genuine intelligence, like real non-artificial intelligence. So the whole approach is that you're going to keep what you've already built. You've invested a lot of money. You're not going to throw that away. But you definitely want to be considering using data-centric design patterns to accelerate the projects that you're going to do anyways. So don't spin off an infrastructure project for a data fabric. Just apply it to the projects, intercept the change that you're going to do, and do that in a better, faster, cheaper way and start the transformation. And the design patterns really fit into the projects that you're already planning, whether you're building applications by creating new ones or augmenting existing ones, or app enabling the insights coming out of your warehouse or lake, whether you're enabling self-service on the business side, providing a direct human interface into data that allows them to move off of spreadsheets and get rid of all those higher operational risks, or whether you're standardizing on data, be it core data sets like employee and customer, your master data sets, or reference data. These are all examples of design patterns that can be applied in a data-centric architecture. And the difference here is that circle with the network in the middle of each of these is actually the same. It's not bespoke. There's no silos. It's one platform, one architecture, one approach that can be used many, many times, and that's that power. And think of really every application on a maturity model where you're starting at the same start line that everyone's starting at, where you got an app for everything and every app owns its own database, to the next level where you're taking those existing apps and you're plugging them into a fabric to eliminate point-to-point integration and benefit from plasticity. But then as you're building new, you can build not apps, but experiences that sit on top of autonomous data that is independent of applications. And the ultimate realization of data centricity is where you're fully metadata-driven, not data-driven, but metadata-driven. And the benefits are huge, whether you're saving IT costs or enabling business self-service or automating privacy and governance or enabling what I think is the most exciting phenomena is the idea of continuous intelligence. The benefits of data centricity are really unmatched. And one final thought is we host a weekly webinar where we go a lot deeper because we're barely scratching the surface today. But if you check out cinchy.tv, you can see past episodes, and we host every Thursday at 11:30. So encourage anyone who's finding this interesting to sign up and join us live, ask questions, and access the content that goes much deeper into the individual topics that I mentioned. And feel free to reach out if you want a deeper dive. If you just visit our website at cinchy.com/dive deeper. So that's the idea of data centricity. That's our platform, and happy to open up to any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Definitely will be asking you some questions. So the first one is there one use case that works best, or are there many use cases?
There are many use cases in the same way that what use cases work best for applications. So it's really anytime you need to build a software-based solution that needs to interact and save data. Those are the ideal use cases. Now, that's very generic, so let's look at what are people trying to accomplish these days. Well, everyone's trying to do the same thing. They're trying to get better visibility into their customer experience to drive better engagement and create that connection. So whether you want Customer 360, like these are examples of ways to get started. But these are things that you're trying to do anyways. So the use cases, though, are incredibly diverse. The data centricity really applies to anything that you're doing. So we have use cases where you're trying to, whether it's Customer 360 or Employee 360, or building systems to act as a security master, or a reference data master, or managing your business process if you're launching mutual funds. Like anything that you would be buying or building technology for can be accelerated.
Great, thank you. So the next question is, what are some important steps a company needs to make prior to deploying the data fabric technology?
I think, and that's a very good question, and I think the reality is, while the technology is incredibly powerful and transformational, doesn't mean you're going to be successful with it. So there is an organizational change management consideration here. So data centricity is a different way of thinking. And it requires buy-in from kind of senior leaders within the organization in order for it to be truly successful. Now, that being said, don't confuse this with like a data lake where you're going to invest hundreds of millions and get some future benefit. You should demand instant ROI and instant acceleration. But that being said, you don't jump into a new paradigm. Like if we go back to 1979 when Oracle launched the relational database, you're not going to roll out distributed systems en masse when you have a mainframe if you don't really understand what it means when systems become distributed. So you need to do a bit of research and thinking and make sure, first of all, that you buy into this thesis, that data centricity is the future, and design the organizational change management around the technology to maximize success, to make sure that you don't trip over your own feet as you're deploying it. That would be the single most important thing.
Awesome. So the next question is, can a company's existing system be part of a data fabric, or is it a rip and replace type of investment?
So another good question. So definitely it can be part. The reality is you're not going to replace anything. What you're going to do is you're going to use it to fill in the gaps, basically, where you need a new digital experience and you don't already have an app for that. Well, I apply data centricity to that, but inevitably I'm going to need to connect in my existing data that is existing in existing systems. So a data fabric will generally come with a connector architecture that allows you to connect in data from SaaS applications, so from the cloud, from on-prem, so you can connect to mainframes, text files, REST endpoints, and be able to connect the data into the fabric as well as reverse it and connect it out, real-time batch. There's a number of different patterns, but the ability to connect in is going to be a must-have feature for your data fabric for sure.
Great answer. So the next question would be, what is the reason behind creating such fabric? Can you give me an example of an application that came out from this technology?
Sure. So so I'll say today we've been in the market for about 2 years. We've grown from 2 people to almost 50, and we're based out of Toronto, and we have most of the major Canadian banks as production customers, as well as most of the major wealth and asset managers and almost 100 credit unions that are using it, and they're using it across different business lines: commercial banking, retail, wealth management, and they're really using it to deliver the capabilities that are sometimes customer-facing experiences and sometimes they're internal. So I'll give you one example where an organization was looking to implement seamless onboarding and KYC for their customers that tend to travel the globe, to create really a passporting mechanism that allows them to have the ability to be onboarded once and use that as the passport to enter different business lines in different regions all over the world. as an example of a solution that went from concept to production in about 3 months. Another is there was a big bank that had lots of different fragmented CRMs, and they wanted to create a single view to enable cross-business line referrals, to do cross and upselling, and to be able to create that fabric, to create that connected view that is bi-directional, enable that to be done in a fraction of the time and cost relative to conventional app-centric architectures. We use it to run our entire company. So for us, our fabric is our HR system. It is our billing system. It is our shareholder management system. It is our CRM. Now, that's because we were able to build our company off of the platform from the get-go, whereas our customers are coming at it from the other end, which is they have that legacy they want to get more value out of, but at the same time they have to build. So they use it the same way that we do, is to build the capabilities that you're going to build anyways.
Perfect. And the next question is, how can we test out the Cinchy data fabric with our ideas?
Yeah, if you reach out to us, you can just visit us on the website, and you can chat with us live on there. We can provision a sandbox environment. The platform is designed that it can run in a cloud configuration. We're agnostic to which cloud provider. It can also run on-prem. So depending on what you're trying to try out, if you're comfortable to use cloud, we're happy to support a sandbox environment for you to experiment with. And if you're trying to do work with much more sensitive data, we're also happy if you want to take a cut of the platform and deploy it on-prem and use that to test out some of your use cases. And what you're going to want to test out is, again, the projects and capabilities that you're looking to get done with or without Cinchy. And the question to ask yourself is, can you get it done for less time and less cost? That's the only thing that really matters to get started.
Perfect.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
No, I think that is everything on that end.
Okay, great.
Well, Dan, thank you again for taking your time to participate in the webinar series.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
And thank you everyone for attending. That is going to conclude our follow-up series for Big Data and AI Toronto for this week. Again, please stay tuned for our follow-up. That is going to take place on January 14th. We will be having MariaDB, Ztane, and Air Miles. So feel free to participate in that webinar as well. Thank you again.